Hello. Today we're going to talk about the various ways you can use the BCPS databases in order to locate information. This will be part one in a series of videos that will be created for you. Today we're going to focus on opposing viewpoints and SIRS knowledge source, two databases that are offered to Baltimore County students. Today's primary focus is to make sure that you're able to use a variety of strategies to locate information for your topics. I also want to make sure that we focus on two things. Number one, you're going to make sure that you use your BCPS databases because it's a way to access reliable information. And also, you're going to use a variety of synonyms and phrases in order to search for information related to your topics. Let's begin. First, I'm going to look at one topic that was given to me in regards to whether or not college athletes should be paid for playing college sports. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend that you use different synonyms, switch a word or two, and I'll show you what I mean right here. When I go to the BCPS database page and I already signed in with my BCPS username and password, I'm going to go to digital content and scroll down and go right here to the purple wording where it says opposing viewpoints. This is the primary database that I recommend for the topic that you're doing for your class. So, should college athletes be paid? So notice if I put in here, should athletes, and spelling does count, be paid, if I type that in, of course it's going to give me different things because professional athletes are paid. So you need to make sure that you're specific. And right here, if you look in the viewpoints area, they say pay to play, should college athletes be paid? So this might be something that you want to go to and look to as a source. Viewpoints, that section gives you information from one side and another, from two sides in regards to a certain topic. So you're going to get information about whether or not college athletes should be paid. Reference, I wouldn't really recommend too many students use this section, but you might want to look at that. We might click that just to see what it looks like. And then, of course, magazines. Here it says there are 4 magazines that you can go to in order to get information. I highly recommend that you go to some of the magazine sections because the wording that's used makes it a little bit more enjoyable to read, and you can definitely get information related to your topic that way. But let's go ahead and start with the viewpoints. So I'm going to click the first one that comes up. And here you see that they give me information that was in Opposing Viewpoints and Context from 2008, where we have a senior editor of the Journal of Business Law Society sharing their opinion in regards to whether or not college athletes should be paid. The great thing about this, if I read this information, you're going to have to do some reading, but if I read this information, I get a background in regards to the topic, and then when I scroll down, they have arguments for why college athletes should be paid, so I can skim that for information. And then we have other information that's in bold in the heading, education ahead of hired entertainers, so why they shouldn't be paid. So you always want to keep in mind that viewpoints is really great because you get two sides to the story, or two sides to the opinion. The other thing I want to point out, you have to the right hand side something called citation tools. When you click that, it shows you how you can cite your source. So whether you download it to your device and save it under your topic, or whether or not you choose to copy and paste, it's up to you. But you definitely have to cite your sources in order to show where you got your information. You don't want to be accused of plagiarizing or copying information and then run the risk of getting a 0 or failing for your class. So always cite your source. The other tools I'll point out, you're able to email the article to yourself or to your teacher, download it. If you're at home on another computer, you can print, and then of course you can save it in a folder or file that you create for your project. The other feature, you can listen.
Pay to play. Should college athletes be paid? Should college athletes be paid?
So you can listen to the article and have it read to you as you take your notes. One thing to keep in mind is if you decide to listen to your article, have headphones so that you're not interrupting any other students if you're in a classroom setting. Okay, I'm going to go out of this. And I'll quickly go to a magazine article so you can see how different that is. Notice that with this one, they break it down a little bit in a way that makes it a little bit more entertaining for middle school students. And still it's scholarly because it's a magazine. This is a source. But when you look at the background information at the top, you read that, and then, or you can highlight it. That's great. Okay, you want to highlight everything. You can add notes. Great resource. I would add more for my notes, but I'm just putting that there for an example. And then right here, okay, they say yes, they should be paid, and then they give me information. And so NCAA likes to call the athletes who play varsity sports at university student athletes. Far more accurate term would be athlete students. So they have that. And then on the other side, no, they shouldn't be. So then right here they say many people wrongly believe that the NCAA and its members earn millions of dollars annually. In fact, very few athletic departments take in more money than they spend. The NCAA distributes more than 90% of its revenue back to member campuses and conferences. That money funds programs that support the academic needs and well-being of student athletes. So that might be a reason why they say college students should not be paid. And I might say reason number 1 and fix my typo. And then that's a note that I have for myself. And the great thing about this is when you sign in using your BCPS username and password, it saves this information for you. Okay. Now if I go back, if I find that this article is something that I want to keep, so it was this first article, then right here I'm going to save it and it's going to be added to my folder. Okay. So keep that in mind. You want to save a lot of your material. That way you're not going back and forth trying to figure out what you used. Let me try one more example. I think there was a question in regards to the Electoral College. Let me just double check. Okay, so I think they were saying, does voting count? So if I type that in, and keep in mind we're looking at synonyms and how we can use them. So if I put that in, does voting count? Right here is talking about early voting. That's not necessarily what I don't think that's what your topic is about. Right here, how none of the above could decide the U.S. election. How about if we try Electoral College? Because I believe that's the system that the student is thinking of when they talk about whether or not people should vote, or is one of the areas that they might want to look into. So when I type in Electoral College, it just gives me background information, which is really good, about your topic. So here it tells me what the Electoral College is, and it has statistics. That's one thing we can talk about in part 2, using statistics to support your opinion. But then also structural problems and disenfranchisement, or keeping people from voting. Should the Electoral College be eliminated? That one sounds pretty interesting, so I'm going to go ahead and click that one just for the sake of time. And then right here they talk about, let's see if I can just highlight this and get them to read that. Oops.
The Electoral College should be eliminated. Roy T. Davis is a retired businessman and a lifelong Republican. Over my many years of voting, I have given the Electoral College only a passing moment of thought, as I think most Americans do. I was under the mistaken belief that it was just a formality, a part of our election process that changed nothing and affected nothing. I thought my vote in New York was cast for a presidential and vice presidential candidate, and that was that. Then came the election of 2000, which drove home to me the shortcomings of the Electoral College.
And I'll pause it there so you can continue to listen to that if that's your topic. But then they talk about right here the problems with the Electoral College, so why people feel as though they shouldn't vote. So you can read that and see if it applies. And then when I skim down, they give us a specific example again in New York State, some of the issues that they had. And then the great thing, further reading. So it might give you the names of different books, news articles, periodicals, which are newspapers, journals that you can go to for information. So this right here gives me really great information that I can use for my topic about whether or not people should vote. You don't want to just say yes or no. You want to be able to support your reasons. I'm going to go back real quick because I feel like I need to click statistics just so you can see how great opposing viewpoints is. So when I click statistics, Okay. Right here it talks about electoral votes in United States presidential elections, public opinion about the U.S. electoral system. So right here, let's see what it gives me. So right here, do you think the United States should keep the Electoral College or use only the popular vote? And so here you have 48% of the people saying that they should keep the popular vote, and 36% believe that we should use only the Electoral College vote, and then 16% don't know. So of course you want to be able to cite this source. So I click Citation Tools and I save that. So Opposing Viewpoints, I think, is going to be a really great resource for you to use for your assignment. I'm just going to go out of this real quick and give you a chance to see. When I scroll down to digital content and I go to SIRS knowledge source, if I type in Electoral College here, I just want you to see how different that is. So, and again, spelling does count. So Electoral College, it says, should it be preserved? And you're able to click it and get information. Pros and cons, should it be abolished? And then different viewpoints. So it really depends on what format you prefer in order to get your information. They also tell you the different sources, so whether or not you want to look at a newspaper, magazine, government documents, which are pretty interesting. Multimedia, let's click that one. So this I don't think is really appropriate for the topic that you're doing, because, I mean, it depends on you. A presidential campaign post from 1864, certainly not. But electoral votes in 2000, if you mention the 2000 election as an example of why or why not, then perhaps. When I scroll down and look right here, how the U.S. presidential election works, perhaps if you're doing a visual and you want people to see specifics, then you might use that, but definitely make sure you cite the source. And I'll just click one more thing. So on the right hand side, actually two things I'll show you. So right here on the right hand side, we see more presidential election results in regards to electoral votes. And so you probably want to make sure that you're as close to the present as possible to support your ideas. But if I go right here, this is interesting because you have a cartoon. So, you know, sometimes if you're doing a presentation for others, you want to start with an image to get them thinking or have them talk. So this might be something that you use in a presentation that you give to your class, not necessarily in your paper. So just keep that in mind. So SIRS knowledge source, it gives you a variety of different resources to use, whether it's images. You also have that option to get newspaper articles and magazines, etc. It's up to you which one you would like to use. All right, if you have any questions, please see me in the Smart Zone and we can discuss your ideas. Thank you very much.